Hello there. I'm Chrissy Ray. This is the brewer1kenobi show, and thanks for watching. I really appreciate your patronage. Today we're going to do a really quick rundown of our favorite Star Wars films, only the major releases. We're not going to do the cartoons. We're not going to do any inclusion of things like Disney Plus TV shows, and we're not going to do the 1977 Star Wars special. We're just going to stick to major releases. I'll start straight in a row from episode 1 all the way up to 9, and then we'll include Solo and Rogue. Prequel trilogy was really polarizing for people. I think that everyone has their favorites and everyone has their least favorite Star Wars film. My kids, my partner, they're really big prequel people. I think that's because they were born just before that time and just after that time. Phantom Menace, Jar Jar aside, and everyone's critique of how he made everything just CGI and there's not enough real things. I do agree with some of those, so we're going to put it in B tier. Mostly, I think that Phantom Menace was a really good film. It wasn't the film that I waited my whole life for. And that doesn't mean that it's a horrible film just because it wasn't my favorite. I'm going to put it in B. That's a solid choice for me. However, Attack of the Clones, I do get a lot of the critiques of that. I'm going to be a brat. That's one of my least favorite Star Wars films. We're going to put it in F. And everybody who loves Attack of the Clones just said, "What?" and started to freak out on me. Go ahead and leave your comments. I think that shit's dope. All right, where are you? 3, Revenge of the Sith. This one has some of the most amazing fight scenes, some of the best acting from those actors. I think that after they got started in 96, I think it was, making these films, they really grew into a place of understanding the computer element, being able to act. I know that in The Phantom Menace and in Attack of the Clones, they were still getting used to acting to paddles and things like that. Stuff that was not actual, not exactly real life elements, and they had finally seen enough of their own films to realize, oh, when I'm doing this, that's what that will look like when I complete it. So, Revenge of the Sith goes in A tier for me. That's a really good film. A lot of action, a lot of emotion. The CGI had got to a place of mind-blowing, and I think from Phantom Menace to Revenge of the Sith, you can see the growth of their CGI technology grow the most. We're going to move right along to episode 4. Also kind of a polarizing thing is the old trilogy. So a lot of the newer crowd thinks that the old movies are goofy and old and that they don't really contain cool elements and they're not computerized. They don't have the same look and feel of a modern film. And I just think that's ridiculous. You're looking at a piece of science fiction history. Star Wars, space opera, whatever you want to call it, revolutionized how we make special effects films. It's one of the godfathers of it all. So if you don't include Star Wars in your favorite films, A New Hope, that's fine. But if you discredit it just because it's not look the same as a modern Star Wars film, you have modernized goggles on and you're not really looking at history very well. A New Hope was a great film. It was pioneer of its time. We'll give it a B. Empire, episode 5, is, I'm just going to say it and we'll just go ahead and throw it up there and then we'll talk about it. Empire is my favorite Star Wars film. We are going to put it in S tier. Why is Empire my favorite film? Empire was magic. So the first film is a little wonky. It's a little cut together in haphazard way because they had shot so much and someone was finally able to cut those pieces together into a cohesive film. But there really was just a bunch of mess before that. Empire, very quickly within that next year of them releasing A New Hope and starting the work on Empire, they stepped into a place of really knowing what they were doing. I think that Empire is a beautiful example of catching your stride very quickly. Empire, S tier. Return of the Jedi. Return of the Jedi used to be one of my son's favorite films growing up. I don't know if he still loves it as much. He can tell me in the comments below. But I think that Return of the Jedi was destroyed whenever they did the remakes. They took out the Ewok song, which I think is ridiculous. They took out Sebastian Shaw, and they put, Hayden Christensen. Sorry, I had to search for the man's name. I do love Hayden Christensen, but Return of the Jedi, also a B film. Now I'm going to get to the most polarizing part of my video where people will crush me and come for me. I thoroughly believe that you all will come for me after this. My name is Chrissy Ray, after all. So, The Force Awakens almost was the movie that I waited my whole life for. It wasn't, but it was almost. Force Awakens brought back a lot of real elements. So much of that film was actually shot right next to living, breathing people in masks and costumes, next to realistic, actual, physical objects, sets, locations, set pieces. All of that incorporated into the CGI in a way that pulled old imagery from the original Star Wars in a way that I was able to feel it through this new movie. I cried watching The Force Awakens because it actually makes me feel like I'm watching an old Star Wars movie. Argue that out down below however you want to. That's fine with me. I appreciate you. The Last Jedi, though, man. Last Jedi, in my opinion, just a little bit better than Attack of the Clones. Was it better than Attack of the Clones? Just a little bit, and I'll tell you why. Attack of the Clones lost me with the unrealistic nature of the way they chose to do the romance. I understand that Padme and Anakin have to get together and make these kids. I do think that how that was executed through the film Attack of the Clones was awkward and weird. And the movie itself is just way too long because of it, so it feels like you're dragging out this love story that is very forced, and even though you tried to give it a longer film, it didn't have enough time to fruish. So Last Jedi has sort of a bromance between Rey and Kylo Ren, and I know that's a little awkward for folks, but we can also argue that out in the comments below if you want. I think that that's far more appropriate because it doesn't lead to some half, attempted love interest. I think that their connection as friends and Jedi alone, makes the passion of their little kiss moment sort of valid and not romantic and not pukey. So we'll give Jedi just a little bit better than that. But we're on to my favorite of the sequel trilogy, so I think that Rise of Skywalker is an A tier film for me. And I know I hear it already. Boo! That's fine. You guys can whine and poopy all you want. The passion, the kiss moment, the reconciliation, her passing him the lightsaber through the Force, that was all really cool stuff. Argue me, shame me. Solo, F tier. Really cool bank heist type film, not a Star Wars movie. But Rogue One, we're gonna situate right up there next to Empire. I actually argue it with myself sometimes. I'm never really sure whenever I tell people what is your favorite Star Wars film. I shuffle between Empire and Rogue One. It depends on what mood I'm in. The totality of the moment, everything that we knew about Star Wars that built up to the end of Rogue One, I really feel like we have magic in that film that's not represented in other Star Wars films. You have true human emotion brought to you from across another galaxy far, far away in a distant time long ago, where folks had fought and fought for rebellion, for truth to be shown to the galaxy, for a new way to start. And though they made it to a point of being able to pass the information on, we get to see the heartbreaking moment on that beach where Cassian Andor and Jyn sit down and just wait for the end. And that's a real human moment that Star Wars has never captured in any other film. Thanks for listening. I really appreciate you. Leave your comments below. Let me know what you think. Show me what your tier list looks like. Be good.